Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're listening to the Ask Brien radio show on KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. Well, for those of you who have never listened to the Ask Brien show, we are going to explain a couple of things. First of all, why is Ask Brien spelled with an E? Why is it spelled A-S-K-B-R-I-E-N? Because most people spell Brien B-R-I-A-N or B-R-Y-A-N, but nobody spells it with an E, except if you're Irish and you're part of the O'Brien family. But not everybody is. So we want to ask our expert in E's. Matt, are you there?
I am here, Peter.
All right. So why in the world are we spelling the Brien with an E? I mean, my name is Peter. I mean, so why? And it's not Ask Peter. So we'll get into that in a second. But why? Why do we spell Brien with an E? Are we laughing here, Tracy?
We should
And by the way, Peter has two E's in it, by the way.
I think people want to know why the show's not named Ask Peter way more than they want to know why Ask Brien. I think that is the absolute shocker question.
Well, we have a lot of shocker questions, but we have our detailed E-man. Mr. E, why is Brien spelled with an E?
Yes, that's right.
Give us
That's
one
me.
reason.
I am the detailed E-man, and there's many reasons. One of the first ones is because E is for education, because we try to educate our listeners each week about business.
Well, that's a good thing to do. People can always learn. That's a great idea. And by the way, it's almost like e-learning. Ooh, that is an E too. All right. What are the reasons why is Brien spelled with an E?
Learning never
I
ends.
confused.
It never ends, Peter.
Learning does never end. That is true.
Well, E is also for experts because our guests are experts in their field.
What does that mean to be an expert? Like, is it like a formula?
Oh, I wish it was that easy, Peter, but it's not. Oh, no. Let me tell you. It
But
takes
Matt, you can make it easy for everybody. I've heard that about you.
easy. Easy starts with an E. So there's another one.
No, I meant explaining what an expert is. I don't know what is an expert.
Well,
Am I an expert?
I believe it depends on what we're discussing. What do you claim to be an expert in?
Comedy.
Oh, yeah, you're the funniest man I've ever met. There's no doubt about that.
You are a good liar, my friend.
Peter,
you
we-
are a good liar.
Tracy, are you familiar with the libel laws? Okay, go ahead.
To be-
Anyway,
Oh, I'm sorry. It's only libel if it's not factual.
Well, to become an
All right, so what
expert,
other-
you need 10,000 hours of experience, another E, of course, in your field. And so if you break it down by 52 weeks in a year, we'll call it 50, give you 2 weeks for some rest and relaxation. With 40 working hours per week, that's 40 hours times 50 weeks in a year. It comes to 2,000 hours. And if you're working at that rate, which we've agreed, most entrepreneurs are probably working double that at 80 hours per year or per
double.
week.
They would love to work 80 hours a week.
Right. Well, it comes out to about 5 years. You really need those 10,000 hours to really be considered an expert in whatever field you claim to be. And that usually could work out to 5 years, maybe 2.5 if you're really working hard.
Wow. That's a good point. And you mentioned one of these, right? Entrepreneur. I mean, E stands for entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are what we're looking for. Entrepreneurs are listening to the show, and entrepreneurs are trying to learn about other things. But what is it? Give me a couple more. I know that Tracy has a favorite. Tracy, what is your favorite? I never can remember, because I don't empathize. I can't remember. What is that E that you like, huh?
It is so not a secret what my favorite E is: electrifying.
But that's from Grease lightning. Electrifying.
Oh, and I love it when you do the Grease lightning, like you have a southern accent.
I have a southern accent. I have whatever accent you want. I got it. All right.
Your southern accent is actually starting to improve, I must say, over the last couple of years. You're really honing in a lot. That you should probably go back and visit New York soon so you can get rid of that southern accent you've taken
Probably
on.
because I talked to you because you've been all around the country, and you can have that southern accent too if you want.
Oh yeah.
That is true. So now, give me just two more reasons why we spell Brien with an E, because our guest was like going, I got to speak to the person who got me on the show because what am I doing here? But anyway, let's go.
We'll give you two more quick ones. E is for excitement, because being excited gets you going.
And you have to have a lots and lots and lots of enthusiasm.
That's
Woo!
right.
Woo! You don't have enthusiasm, you're not going to be, on top of your game. You need to be on your A game. I can E and ask Brien, but we need to be on top of our game. Well, without any further ado, Matt, why do I like the word ado?
Well, once again, I've always thought it's because you've just had a real affinity for the French Romance language. However, I think it's because it has one consonant and the rest of the letters are vowels.
Well, without any further ado, we are going to bring on our guest. Because our guest is saying, what is going on here? I thought this was going to be a business interview, and all that I'm hearing is Southern accents and all kinds of other things. So, let's bring him on. This is like Saturday Night Live, Live from, where are you? New Jersey? Where are you from?
Hey guys, how are you? I'm actually we're based in Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn, New York. So very, very close to Saturday Night Live. Live from New York, live from Brooklyn. All right. And spell how do you pronounce your name? Because I didn't want to butcher it up. So please.
Yeah, sure. My name is Harji Singh.
Harji Singh. And you created this new company. And again, I don't want to mess it up, Loki, whatever. So pronounce the name.
Yeah, you got it right there. It's called Loki, L-O-K-I.
Okay. Wow, I'm 2 for 2. I'm on a roll, and I'm not talking about
You definitely are.
All right. You started this company, Loki, and what is Loki? What do you do?
So Loki, we're one of the first to market cannabis beverages that was able to sell more at a national level. When we came up with the idea back in it was December of 2020, we came up with this idea. We're like, hey, there's so many different hard seltzers on the market. You have Truly, you have White Claw, you have you name it. Like every company out there now has an alcoholic hard seltzer, but there really wasn't much for people who didn't want to drink alcohol because, look, I'm going to be 33 this month actually, and my hangovers are just so bad lately. So for me, drinking alcohol is not even worth it, right? And at the time, it was me and two other friends, and we were just hanging around, and one of them had cannabis gummies. He's like, hey, do you want to try a gummy? And the first thing that came to my mind was like, you know what, I'm okay on that because let's be honest, everybody has had a bad experience with the gummy in their past. So I was like, yeah, I'm okay on the gummy. He goes, no, you know what, give it a shot. It's a very light dosage of Delta-8 THC. I was like, sure, okay, I'll give it a try. I tried this gummy, and it was an amazing feeling. I wasn't like super stoned or anything like that. And a light bulb went off in our heads, like, hey, why isn't there a drink on the market or a beverage on the market that, has Delta-8 THC in it? Something that you can just grab and go, something that's super accessible, something that tastes delicious. It didn't exist. So right there and then we're like, let's all do it, right? Between me and the other two partners that were involved, we kind of had everything that was really needed to take a beverage to market. My background is actually in media and advertising and branding. I also own a global advertising and media agency based out of New York City. And, we've been working with a lot of CPG brands in the past, beverage brands, hospitality companies, nightlife companies, you name it. Everything was like for branding, positioning, digital, A to Z. And the other two partners are actually from the pharmaceutical and cannabis industry. So between the three of us, we had almost every piece of the puzzle to really come up with a name, a brand for this beverage and take it to market. So come January 2021, we all got back into the office and hit the ground running. And believe it or not, we got this beverage on the shelf in 4 months, everything from like the tasting, formulations, packaging, branding, A to Z. And it's been really exciting. It's been a massive success so far. Just within the first week of launching, we sold almost 1,400 cans online. And that was before we did any marketing or anything. That was just based off word of mouth and kind of teasing it out there. So it's been a very interesting journey so far.
So let's first go over two things I want to go over with you. The first is, creating the drink. Okay, obviously you had to experiment, come up with the right drink. Did you use companies out there and just tell them, hey, listen, I want it to taste this way and use these ingredients, or did you actually do it yourself to try to come up and create something?
It was a little bit of both. We kind of had an idea what flavor profiles we wanted to go with. And then we did work with another company who was like a flavor that kind of helped us out just in terms of formulation, because it's totally different making something at home and coming up with flavors versus doing that at scale, right? So coming up with flavors, we did work with another company that helped us sort of narrow down our flavor profile.
And then I have two more parts of this. The one is, how did you create a distribution network? I mean, were you just selling exclusively online in the beginning, or did you actually try to go to a couple of stores here and there to see if they would take the product?
No, that's a great question. So when we first sort of launched, we figured let's start with more of a direct consumer online model. But what we learned is, if we really want to scale this to the levels that we want, like a Red Bull or something at that level, having a distribution network is super important. So luckily enough, one of the partners that is involved in this business also owns liquor stores all over New Jersey. And he also has a network of other people.
That's great, but I mean, so did you go to stores did you go have it online and people were able to buy it online and then you walked into stores and said it's already online? Or did you, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Or was the opposite? You were going to online stores hoping to get somebody and tell them, by the way, it's available online?
So the price that we have online to avoid supply chain conflict is going to be a little bit more expensive than it would be if somebody would walk into a store and buy it. In the earlier stages, we first started off with selling it to retailers that we already knew and had a sort of connection with. From there, we did a lot of marketing and advertising to get the word out. And, we still do get a lot of wholesale requests that come in through our website on a daily scale. It got to the point where a large distributor in Jersey, that was where we got our first distribution deal, sort of noticed that, hey, this drink is everywhere. Like, why don't we have it in our inventory or in our sales pipeline? And it kind of worked that way, where a distributor first reached out to us and said, hey, we're noticing that, this drink is everywhere. We saw it at music festivals. We saw it at nightclubs, bars. We'd love to have a chat with you guys to see if we could have a distribution deal for New Jersey. So that was sort of how we landed our first.
And I presume you're using a co-packer? Is that that's how it works?
We are using a co-packer, yes. Okay.
But how does that work? I mean, are you not limited? So let's say you got an order for 1 million cans tomorrow. Is a co-packer going to allow you to make that much production from them, or is there limitations, at least at this time?
Yeah, no, so that's going to be a very good problem to have, I feel like. But currently, with the co-packing sort of network that we have, we could do up to 100,000 cans a month, which, is pretty good for us at this point. And we're crossing our fingers hoping that becomes a problem soon, where we have to do more than 100,000 cans a month.
And this is available in all 50 states or not?
No. So there's about 20 states that it's not available in currently. And that's mainly because, those 20 states are trying to figure out regulations around cannabis and how to tax it and all that stuff. And, a few of them are states like Alaska, Idaho, Iowa, Minnesota, I believe Montana and Michigan is one of those two. And then the Dakotas, not North Dakota, South Dakota. I just don't know all the 20 off the top of my head.
But as of right now, you're waiting for the approval in those states. So if somebody orders it online, how do you, I guess you block out those 20 states? Is that how it works if somebody tries to order it online?
Correct. So there's some states where, you're not allowed to physically sell it in the state, but if you order it from somewhere else, you could still get it. But the states where it's not allowed at all, what we do is we'll just not let any customers from that state make those orders.
But what is not allowed? That's what I don't understand. We're not talking about marijuana or THC stuff. Cannabis is in a lot of different products. Shampoos even have cannabis in it. So why is there even a restriction at all?
So our drink it's a THC beverage, right? So it still has psychoactive properties. So what we use is the cannabinoid we're using is Delta 8 THC. And the reason we chose to go with Delta 8 is because it has a bit more, it's less mild, or more mild, I would say. It's not as intense as the regular THC that everybody, knows about. More often than not, when anybody says THC or is mentioning THC, they're usually referring to Delta 9 THC, which is another cannabinoid, right? Delta 9 THC is the one that's the most popular. If anybody, smokes a joint or buys a gummy or anything that has quote unquote THC in it, it's most likely going to be Delta 9 THC. We're using what's called Delta 8 THC, which is a little bit more mild. It allows consumers to sort of drink this beverage and not get as, high as they would if it was a regular cannabis product. But to answer your question, why is there regulation around it, is because at the end of the day, it still is THC. It still has psychoactive properties.
And where is it available on stores? I understand that you can get it online. But, like, let's say I'm living in Long Island, where I'm from originally. Are there stores there that I can go and buy it?
So believe it or not, New York State is one of those states that just in January kind of put a pause on cannabis products because they've legalized cannabis, they decriminalized cannabis, and now I think New York State is going to be moving into legalizing cannabis and opening up shops, and allowing for recreational use. But until that happens and until that's completely clear, it's a very gray area in New York State right now. And we as a company just chose out of our own, self, like, hey, we're going to pull out just until they have it all figured out, because the last thing we want is any negative PR or press around our brand, because, one bad thing could really destroy an entire company. So, just to play it safe, we were like, hey, let's pull out of New York State. Even though our headquarters are here in New York, right? We're like, let's pull out of New York State just to make sure until they figure out what they're doing, and then we'll come back into the market. But New Jersey, Pennsylvania, you can find our product.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, I want to know. So where can I find the product?
Yeah, so in states like New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Florida, Texas, I mean, you can find it in grocery stores. You could find it in smoke shops. You could find it in bars, restaurants, some gas stations will sell it as well. You could find it in a lot of, what we've seen too is whenever there's like large music venues or music events, they'll have it up there as well. Like Made in America happened in Philadelphia where, our drink was present there at some point. But we are also in, large beverage shops like Buy Right. And like, you mentioned, we hope to work our way out to ShopRights and the larger retailers as well. It's just a matter of, us nailing the right distribution network or growing the right distribution network to get there as well. But I think we're on the right path.
We're going to be taking a break very shortly, but so how many employees do you currently have?
Sorry?
How many current employees do you have?
Current employees. Oh, so currently, it's a very interesting model that we have set up, right? We have 3 partners, me and 2 other people, but I actually own that advertising agency as well. So we've been able to leverage a lot of the employees that we have at our advertising agency to work on this as like a project. But then we have 2, 3 other people who help out on the operations side. So the actual core team, I would say, is 5 people. But then we have access to another company that I own that, has been helping a lot on a lot of the marketing and branding side of things and social media side of things.
Well, and probably that other company can probably do the SEO and all that other stuff, which over time is a good way long term, right? Because you don't want to be spending millions of dollars advertising.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how we've been able to, get ahead very fast, because to get to this scale of marketing and to this scale of branding and advertising, it would cost us millions of dollars to really do that, right? But luckily enough, we were able to kind of hedge those costs by having an in-house agency almost.
That's pretty good. We're going to be taking a break. You're listening to KHTS 1220, 98.1 FM. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Ask Brien Radio Show on KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM with our guest, founder of Loki. All right, Tracy, you got some questions people said, enough, Peter. We want to have questions from Tracy. So pivot.
I am happy to do that, but I'm not actually going to be pivoting so much as I'm going to be doing a little bit of a deeper dive into the marketing side. So before the break, we were talking about how that you were really fortunate because you have a branding agency that was able to support you in the launch of the product and really being able to accelerate the growth through the branding and messaging through your agency. My question is, what are some of the challenges that you face as a marketer in marketing a product that's not legally sold in all areas?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess, to answer that question, I'm going to split it up in two things because I feel like branding is different than marketing, right? But with marketing, marketing a product like this is definitely difficult, right? Because the fact that it's regulated, we can't do anything like social media ads on Instagram or Facebook. We can't do, Google ads or pay-per-click ads or anything like that, which, believe it or not, are probably the two largest channels for digital marketing. So as soon as you take that away from a brand or a company, it makes it very hard to grow or scale. So for us, the fact that we can't do any digital marketing, that also means that our competition or anybody else entering the market in this space can't do it as well, right? So in a way, we kind of saw that in a way, we saw that as a opportunity, if anything, right? Because here you have all these brands coming into market who actually can't do any marketing, right? But we were lucky enough that, we knew of alternative methods to market a brand, right? We knew of different ways we can build awareness, different ways we can build funnels for people to kind of consider this product, and different ways we can acquire different customers in different states, for sure. In regards to marketing in specific states, we were pretty cautious of marketing in states only where, people could actually get the product. However, we can't control anything on social media if somebody posts, a review about it or I get what we call earned media, or if there's press around it in a state where, we can't sell. So that's one side of the equation with the marketing side. Now, the reason why I think, we were pretty successful is because of the branding side, right? We spent a lot of time and effort doing a lot of market research on, what kind of consumers we should go after, what should be our messaging, what should be our story, why are we even doing this to begin with, right? And one thing we learned back in, I would say early 2000s, when we were, early 2001, when we were kind of doing some research before we came up with a strategy for the brand, we learned that, look, as of today, alcohol is the only current option for people looking, to have a beverage that gives them some sort of effect, right? And what we learned was that the age group between 21 to about 45, they're all looking for alternatives to alcohol, right? They're looking for something that is not going to give them a hangover, is not going to have the calories or the carbs that exist there, it's something that they can enjoy without, regretting it the next day. Let's say that, please. We also saw that, for example, Fortune Business Insights said that the global cannabis beverage market was valued at about $300 million in 2019. They're projecting that to be $8.5 billion by 2027. So the market is there for these kind of beverages, right? Now, one big challenge, which I think you brought up, was how can you get consumers to really, buy this beverage? Because cannabis had a certain stigma around it, right? And it kind of it's a little bit more intimidating than just grabbing a beer off the shelf, I would say. And one big part of our branding was we wanted to build a brand that even non-cannabis users could relate with, right? In all our messaging, in all our communication guidelines, and anything you guys see online, we never say anything about, getting stoned or getting high or getting, any negative words, anything like that. We always wanted our brand to be very approachable. We wanted to feel like, we wanted to feel like it could fit into someone's life in a very easy way. At the same time, we wanted to feel a little bit exclusive, but, one motto that we have for this brand is it should feel exclusive yet be accessible. And what that means is you should see celebrities drinking it, but you should be able to walk into your local grocery store and pick it up. So for us, I feel like the brand was a huge sort of variable for the success that we've had so far.
Right. I know. I was curious because there is, with alcohol, there is already mainstream adopting the product, and whether you agree or disagree, it is absolutely a cultural. Alcohol is part of our culture, and something that people think probably in a grocery store, for example, there's the beer aisle, then there's the potato chip aisle, and people don't really give either one of those things too much of a difference of a thought for the most part. So it's interesting to hear how you're overcoming even just the early adopters versus the mainstream, and I think that's shown by the projections in revenue where you are now, where it's expected to be. What that says to me is that where you are right now, you're still in an early adopter perception phase, and that the trajectory is projected as it is because people are going to get a lot more comfortable and acclimated to purchasing that without stigma. Would you agree with that?
100%. And that's actually one of the main reasons we chose to do a beverage, because the barrier of entry for a beverage is a lot lower, right? Smoking cannabis, smoking in general has a bad stigma to it. Cannabis gummies or edibles have somewhat of a bad stigma to it. But a beverage, the barrier of entry is a lot lower. Someone is less intimidated to open it up and try it versus smoking something or eating a gummy or anything along those lines.
Well, I would also imagine, too, that there might be people who might be intimidated to walk into a dispensary, but they're not going to be intimidated to walk into a grocery store, or they might be in a grocery store, never thought about trying the product, but since they're in a grocery store with a lot of other common items they purchase, it would be an easy thing for them to pick up and try, just like a new laundry detergent or a new hard seltzer or something like that.
Exactly.
We're going to be taking a break for our sponsor, Albany Farms and Legal Steps. Danielle, are you there? I guess not.
Do you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
There she is. Hello.
All right.
Sorry.
So you're the sponsor for this show, and I don't know why, but okay, great. So what is Albany Farms, and what do they do, and what do they sell?
So Albany Farms, we have, our brand name is Twisted Noodles, and they're delicious ramen noodles. And most importantly, they're proudly made in the USA. And we actually just opened up our first food manufacturing facility located in Belzou, South Dakota. So we're really excited about that.
So give us like 2 or 3 flavors that you have.
Oh, okay. So we plan to kind of mix up the ramen category. We're going to have fun with it. So we've got Brien taco, we've got some spicy Thai red chili, and of course we've got veggie for all the veggie lovers out there, and then your classic beef and chicken and shrimp.
Well, that sounds exciting. In fact, that's made in America. I heartily support every American company. So that's really good that it's made in America. Then you have this other company, Legal Steps. What is that?
Legal Steps, and spelt with a Z, because they will teach you everything you need to know on starting a business from A to Z. And it's basically your how-to guide on how to become an entrepreneur. And whether it's determining your business structure or creating a market strategy, creating a logo, Legal Steps can help point you in the right direction.
Wow, that's exciting. There's a lot of stuff going on. And we're very glad that we have a sponsor, and we're very proud of Albany Farms and Legal Steps. I'm glad to have us on. We're going to go back to our show. Thank you very much, Danielle, and we'll be right back. Tracy.
Yes, Peter, you've got a lot of background noise happening.
Well, it's not from me. That's what I can tell you. Is it Loki? Are you there?
Oh, sorry, guys. It might have been me. We're at the office right now. There's a lot going on outside.
Okay. All right. Well, Tracy's asking some more questions, and she has some more stuff. So go ahead, Tracy.
Yes, and so we talked about building the brand. We talked about the marketing. Let's talk about how you want to align your growth strategy with those phenomenal industry projections. How are you going to keep up your pace and really perform well and be aligned with those industry projections and grow that way?
Yeah, for sure. So one thing we're definitely going to start, what we're doing now is actually launching almost 5 new flavors, which is going to be very exciting. So when we first went to market, we went live with just one flavor. That's all we had. And a big part of our strategy, believe it or not, was actually to not even list what flavor it is on the can. And we kind of did that on purpose because we're following the same approach that Red Bull took in a way, right? If you see a Red Bull can, like the original Red Bull can, it doesn't actually ever say what flavor it is, but it's a very unique flavor profile. So our original flavor is the same. It doesn't say what flavor it is. It's a very unique profile. And the reason we did that is because if you were to drink Red Bull in a, let's say, solo cup by itself, without the can, you still know it's Red Bull, right? Just because of the way it tastes, the way that the effects that it gives you. We're trying to do the same exact thing, right? So when we launched our first can, it was pretty successful. It was more of a citrus flavor, more of like a blueberry, I would say blueberry lime flavor. And then just this year, we launched our white can, which is more of a lavender peach flavor. And that one, we positioned it more like a summer vibe. You could have it at the beach. You could have it at the pool. Some customers actually, quote unquote, said it's summer in a can, so we kind of went with that. But we're going to be launching 5 more flavors. Hopefully, they'll be out by January, Q1 of next year. That's going to be part A of our trajectory of growth. Having those flavors is going to give us more shelf real estate, so that will drive more brand awareness for sure. A second thing we're going to do is we're going to start a program called Low Key Arts, where we're going to be working with a lot of musicians, a lot of international DJs, a lot of artists, and sponsoring a lot of events, and working a lot in the music industry and the music field. And again, using Red Bull as an example, what Red Bull did for extreme sports, we're going to do for the music industry. And we feel like that's going to be a big step forward for getting our brand out there.
I love that. And so what I'm hearing you say is you're expanding product line flavors, and then you're also going into verticals like the music industry. Any non-traditional verticals that you're exploring, just out of curiosity?
Nothing yet. We want to stay very true to our product and what we're doing. We've seen it happen in the past where a lot of companies try doing so many different things that they forget why they even started to begin with. So we're trying to stay hyper-focused on being what we're calling enhanced seltzers. We kind of came up with that term. An enhanced seltzer is any sort of beverage that's non-alcoholic that still gives you somewhat of an effect. So we're staying in our lane, to say the least. And we want to be the best at what we do. We want to get to the point where anytime somebody thinks of a cannabis drink, our brand comes to mind.
And you certainly have the skill set and the team to do that, which is amazing. So now I am going to pivot, and I wanted to ask you, as an entrepreneur, clearly you have built and launched multiple successful businesses. What do you think one of the biggest challenges, if there's, we have several entrepreneurs who are listening to our show who are in just the concept phase, or they're in the very beginning of their launch phase. You expedited a launch quicker than most food products, especially considering the barriers you had to overcome. But I would like for you to share, what are some of the challenges that, as just in general as an entrepreneur, that you have faced that you have overcome?
I could right off the bat say a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck in what's called analysis paralysis. It's just overthinking and trying to be prepared, trying to over-prepare for things. And I just have to say, no one will ever be 100% prepared to do anything. That's just what I've seen, right? So for any other entrepreneur listening out there, if you have an idea, just go for it, just do it. You'll learn a lot of things. You'll make a lot of mistakes as you build, but as long as you get started, getting started, I think, is the most important thing. Not writing a business plan for weeks and weeks and weeks, not thinking about what to do. I'm not saying don't do any of that, but I'm saying, don't overanalyze things. Just, put the wheels in motion.
And then what is probably one of the most rewarding things that you could share about being an entrepreneur?
Not having to respond to anyone else. That's definitely, I would say, the top thing there. Being able to set your own hours, your own schedule, look, in the early stages of any entrepreneur, you will work more than you would if you had a 9 to 5. That's for sure. But you're putting in the hustle and the time now, so that in the future you can have a little bit more of a relaxed life. I'm fortunate enough to say, now after the couple companies that I started, we're almost a decade old now. I'm able to sort of take a step back, spend more time on doing things that I love enjoying. I love producing music. I do a lot of that now. Now that there's a lot of things that are in cruise control, I would say, all that hard work in the earlier years definitely pays off.
I always like
one thing I want to say. One thing I want to say is work smarter, not harder. I'm a huge advocate that this whole hustle culture is very toxic. So you don't have to be working 100 hours a week. I would just say just work smarter, not harder.
We're going to be taking a break. We'll be right back with the Ask Brien Show on KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. Welcome back to the Ask Brien Radio Show on KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. Well, we're getting to the last portion of our show. Tracy had another question to ask, and I know everyone's going to be sad, but we are getting to the end. Tracy, what was your question before everybody starts getting sad?
Oh, I know, and it's such a good question. And that is, so you've operated a lot as a solopreneur, but you mentioned earlier in the show that you now have 2 partners with your current endeavors. So tell us, what are the differences between being a solo entrepreneur and how it is to work with 2 partners within this corporation?
Yeah, for sure. Both definitely have their pros and cons, being a solo entrepreneur or being in a partnership with other business partners. On the solo entrepreneur side, you're the one making all the decisions. There's no one else to really, give you any checks and balances, which can be a bad thing at sometimes. But it's a lot faster, I would say, because there's no one else to make decisions. But at the same time, it can be more difficult because you're the one doing everything. Now, as a partnership, being in partner, having a business partner, it's almost like being married to someone, right? You have to trust them. Has to be communication. They have to know what their role is in the business, right? But at the same time, it could take a lot of weight off of your shoulders because you're not doing everything, right? As a team, you also have to make sure that everybody's bringing the same amount of value to the table, so there's no sort of conflicts in the future. And you just have to be very transparent and communicate. But I think, being in a partnership is a very solid way to grow a lot faster, especially if there's the other partners are bringing value to the table in the form of skill sets, or it could even be financially.
Love that. Well, I know the big question that everyone wants the answer to, and I know I do, is where can people get in touch with you? How can people get in touch with you? And how can people order and purchase the product?
Yeah, for sure. So to learn more about the product itself, you could simply search Loki Seltzers, L-O-K-I Seltzers, or you could find us at siploki.com, SIPLOKI.com. If you want to reach out to me directly, you can find me on LinkedIn or Instagram. I guess my Instagram handle would be the fastest to find me, or direct message me. My Instagram is going to be Sir Harji Singh, SIRHARJISINGH, and the Instagram for our company is Siploki, SIPLOKI.
That's so great. I love that. SipLoki, LOKI.com. And if you are driving in really congested traffic right now, we do not want you to try to write down that contact information or try to make notes on all of the great points that were made in today's show. We want you to go to your favorite podcast app, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, and we want you to follow the Ask Brien podcast. Of course, that's Ask Brien, BRIEN. And you can not only download this episode, but you can also get all of our previous episodes. And if you really, really love the podcast, we ask you to go on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review or share it out to your friends on social. But most importantly, stay connected with us through the show and through the podcast, Ask Brien Podcast. All right. I think we might even have some time for some bonus questions.
Well, we do have a couple more questions to ask. Phil, how did you come up with a name, Wacky?
Oh, great question. So when we were brainstorming, whiteboarding, and whatnot, we took a step back. It was like, hey, when does somebody want to actually experience this drink or have this drink? And we thought, even for ourselves, we're like, we want to drink this, but we want to keep things low key. Like, if you want to keep it very low key. And we're like, oh my God, that's it. Low key, L-O-K-I.
And how hard was it to get the domain name?
So we have SIP Lowkey. Obviously, we couldn't get lowkey.com. Hopefully, when we do become a billion-dollar corporation one day, we can buy lowkey.com. But SIP Lowkey, SIPLOKI, was available. We also bought, multiple of other domains that route back to us, like Drink Lowkey or Enjoy Lowkey or anything like that. But yeah, we were lucky that SIP Lowkey was available.
So since you have an agency background, we only have another minute or two. What are some things people can do that are starting a company to get SEO going that aren't, billion-dollar companies and they're just starting out? I've heard writing blog articles may be good. What do you think are the best things to do? Give us three things.
Writing blog articles, yeah, writing blog articles is definitely great. Influencer marketing is huge. It really depends what kind of product it is, but I would say if you're not in a regulated space like we are, Instagram marketing can go very, very far, as well as, Google marketing. But on the SEO front, you want to make sure that your page is very keyword optimized. So you're targeting specific, keywords that people are looking for. And that's usually the first step. But then, from there, you want to make sure you're getting a lot of good backlinks that are linking back to your website. That could come in the form of mentions on different blogs or different publications.
Well, that's great. You've been a great guest. We're going to be signing off and saying Roger and out, over and out. Thank you very much, people. You're listening to KHTS 1220, 98.1 FM. If you want to listen to it, you can go to the podcast, Spotify, Apple, everywhere. We'll be around. We'll be there. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Tracy. Thanks a lot, Mr. Singh. Good luck to Looking.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.